Tulsi Gabbard walks away as Democrats continue to crumble in the polls, at least in a couple very key areas. You probably saw this headline, a little bit of an October surprise. Tulsi Gabbard, seen here, leaving the Democratic Party. And she uses some very choice language, calling the Democrats a bunch of warmongering wokesters, people who are out there race baiting and trying to wreck America at every turn. So we're going to watch a short snippet of this, but this came out from Tulsi Gabbard on her Twitter account, and she is actually launching a new show over on YouTube called The Tulsi Gabbard Show, and you can, of course, subscribe over there. Here you can see she posted this today, and it's causing a lot of feathers to be ruffled on the Democratic side. They're saying, get out of our party. We don't want you here in the first place. Here's what Tulsi said. Tulsi Gabbard writes, I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that is now under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers driven by cowardly wokeness who divide us by racializing every issue and stoke anti-white racism, actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms, are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, demonize the police and protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, and believe in open borders. Says, I believe in a government that is in it for the people. And she has a full statement over there on her Twitter account. But as you can see, 5.7 million views and counting on this video entitled, I'm leaving the Democratic Party. Here's Tulsi Gabbard.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party
Good call.
That's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war. Now, I believe in a government that's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, today's Democratic Party does not. Instead, it stands for a government that is of, by, and for the powerful elite. Now, I'm calling on my fellow common sense, independent-minded Democrats to join me in leaving the Democratic Party. If you can no longer stomach the direction that the so-called woke Democratic Party ideologues are taking our country, then I invite you to join me.
Do it. Join her. Walk away. Get out of that party. Who knows what they're doing over there? I'm not saying that the Republican Party is doing a whole lot better, but certainly time to cut ties with those woke warmonger cabals of lunatics out there who want to wreck America. And a lot of people are asking about this. Well, this is very interesting. Why is it coming out right now? It's October. It's perfectly timed. She's got a brand new YouTube show. Very, very convenient. So some people are raising their eyebrows on this one going, wait a minute. Hold on a minute. What's going on? Didn't she work for the young leaders of America, or young leaders, globalists, young global leaders, or something like that? Little, but at the same time, happy to welcome people out of the darkness into the light. And so hopefully Tulsi Gabbard drags with her a few 100,000, maybe independents, out of the darkness into a new way of thinking. So we'll welcome her with open arms and anybody else who wants to come and join a different way of thinking. But certainly an interesting change and very interesting timing. And so you can color me a little bit skeptical. We'll see. We'll see, what happens here. WEF is in the chat. That's exactly right. WEF, right? The World Economic Forum, Young Global Leaders. Wasn't it her and Eye Patch McCain? Okay, so that's Tulsi Gabbard. Now, Tulsi Gabbard is leaving the Democratic Party. One big politician bails, and people are asking themselves why. Is it because the commander-in-chief is completely irrational? That's the word of the day. Joe Biden sitting down with Jake Tapper, and he's the commander-in-chief. He's supposed to be a rational, level-headed, well thought out individual who can lead America through difficult times to victory. President Biden sits down with Jake Tapper and they have a conversation about the new possible world war that we're all about to enter into. And Tapper wants to know Biden's opinion about Putin. Do you think he's rational or is he irrational? And how are you dealing with this leader? Because if he is irrational and we're dealing with him as though he is rational, maybe we're off our strategy. Very important question. Mr. President, what do you think of Putin?
Actor?
I think he is a rational actor who's miscalculated significantly.
Okay. Now,
I think he thought, you may recall, I pointed out that they were going to invade, that those 100,000 or more troops there, and no one believed.
There's the Chiron. The Chiron changes right there. Jake Tapper says, Mr. President, do you think Putin's a rational actor?
Actor?
I think he is a rational actor who's miscalculated significantly.
Okay.
I think he thought, you may recall, I pointed out that they were going to invade, that those 100,000 or more troops there, no one believed that he was going to invade Ukraine.
So then why did you only move over 8,500 troops with Lloyd Austin saying that this was a significant show of force for our NATO allies? Didn't work out all that well if you knew this was going to happen.
You listen to what he says. If you listen to the speech he made after, when that decision was being made, he talked about the whole idea of he was needed to be the leader of Russia that united all the Russian speakers. I mean, I just think it's irrational.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Did he just say it was irrational? Because at the start of this, it said, the president said that he was a rational actor. You can see it in the Chiron right there. President Biden, Putin is a rational actor who miscalculated. But then the president comes back out and says, actually, I think it's just irrational.
No one believed that he was going to invade Ukraine. You listen to what he says. If you listen to the speech he made after, when that decision was being made, he talked about the whole idea of he was needed to be the leader of Russia that united all the Russian speakers. I mean, I just think it's irrational.
What?
So if he's not rational and...
No, I didn't say he's not rational.
You said the speech wasn't
I think the speech is... His objectives were not right. I think he thought...
Oh, the speech was irrational. So he gave he's a rational person who just gave an irrational speech. Interesting.
Jake, I think he thought he was going to be welcomed with open arms. That this has been the home of Mother Russia in Kyiv, and he was going to be welcomed. And I think he just totally miscalculated it.
Okay, so that was irrational then. He totally miscalculated it, so it wasn't very rational.
So it's interesting there, John. You hear President Biden saying that Putin's speech was irrational, but pushing back when I suggested that he thought that Putin was irrational. No, that's not what I said, he said. So he's not, I guess he's refusing to insult Putin, but at the same time saying that this entire campaign is not rational.
So even poor Jake Tapper has some trouble with that one. He's trying not to call him irrational, but saying the things he does is irrational, but he's a rational person, and it's a very complicated situation. And this is what happens when you have no useful language anymore and you have a demented brain that can't help carry you from one thought into the next. So even Jake Tapper is having some trouble with that one. Now, Biden's not the only politician who has serious difficulties communicating. John Fetterman, who is running for the Senate, also having trouble. MSNBC was trying to communicate to its viewers that John Fetterman, even though you love him, may not be ready for prime time. Here's what that sounded like.
we had a monitor set up so that he could read my questions because he still has lingering auditory processing issues as a result of the stroke, which means he has a hard time understanding what he's hearing. Now, once he reads the question, he's able to understand. You'll hear he also still has some problems, some challenges with speech. And I'll say, Katie, that just in some of the small talk prior to the interview, before the closed captioning was up and running, it did seem that he had a hard time understanding our conversations.
Couldn't even understand the conversation before the prompter was on. That's not good. When you're in the Senate, one of the things you have to do there is communicate. I mean, you hear these people. That's all they do is just sit around and talk in one big room after another. They just sit there behind the committee table and they just say, well, are you sure you're not wrecking America? And the witnesses say, totally sure. You can trust me. And they say, well, that's good enough for me. How much more money do you need? So, in second thought, actually, now that I think about it, John Fetterman might be great for the Senate. He's probably overqualified as far as I can tell now that we mention it. Okay. So speaking of Democrats who can't communicate or don't want to communicate, refuse to do that, Katie Hobbs running for governor in Arizona. Still plenty of time on the clock left for a nice little debate. But you hear this individual and the way she talks, and I'm not sure I want to hear her in a debate, to be honest. I mean, I'd like to see it, but I don't know that I could sit through one. Here is Face the Nation asking Katie Hobbs, who's running for the governorship, if she's willing to just have a conversation with her opponent, Carrie Lake. Of course, a debate would be nice. Is one going to happen?
One more time before we let you go, because I think it is on the mind of Arizona voters.
Yes.
Are you saying this morning that there is no circumstance that you can envision or would even try to negotiate in which you and Carrie Lake would appear at a debate together before the election?
At this point in the race, with 30 days to go, our schedule in terms of forums is pretty much set. And I'm really happy with where we are in the plans we have to continue talking directly to the voters of Arizona.
You're not talking to me here, Katie. I live here. Hello. I'd love to see a debate because I'd like to see how you answer some questions. But her schedule is pretty much set. So they're all set here in Arizona. No debates from the Democrats because they don't care about Arizonans or anybody else. Nobody wants to debate any of the ideas. They'd rather just sit in their bunkers and let the voters or something take it over for them. Carrie Lake, meanwhile, is willing to face America and Arizona. Carrie Lake was out at the rally with Donald Trump. Trump very enthusiastic about Carrie Lake, saying, you know, Arizona, she's going to be a big deal for you guys. She's going to be a big deal for the country as well. Here's Trump.
Everybody get out and vote for this unbelievable star. I really believe she's going to be a big star of the country, not just the party.
Big time.
Carrie Lake. Carrie, please come up.
Oh, man, Arizona, you're too good to me. Do you love this guy or what? I know for a fact President Trump loves Arizona, but President Trump, I think Arizona loves you even more.
Shout out to Arizona.
Why wouldn't we love him? Think about, let's go back in history here, just a few years. Record low inflation. Our 401ks looked great. I just talked to a neighbor who's lost a third of his retirement savings since Joe Biden took office. We were doing great. Our kids were safe because our streets were safe. He supported the police. We had great times under President Trump. And we missed you so much, President Trump. Now, I got to tell you, I have some of these know-nothing consultants who tell me, you know, you really need to back away from President Trump right now.
Don't do it, Carrie. No.
And I say to them, put down Hunter's crack pipe.
Yeah! Right now. Put down the crack pipe.
Wouldn't it be horrible? Wouldn't it be horrible? What would it say about my character if I stepped away from my friends? If I step away from my friends, that means I would step away from you, and I will never step away from the people of Arizona.
That's right, baby. Right on, Carrie Lake. Right on, Carrie Lake and Donald Trump. All right. So you can see the rally is going on out there, and they are having a good time out there, you know, talking about Hunter's crack pipe. Hey, Hunter's crack dealer is in our locals community over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. So a lot of fun happening here in Arizona. Woo! Okay, and so that is what's going on with election 2022, my friends. It's going to continue to get wild because the Democrats, they can't even talk, and they're running for re-election. But we'll continue to cover it. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video, and I look forward to seeing you right here on the next one.